The Barron name is synonymous with Southern harness racing. Ron Barron trained over 130 winners, and his three sons, Clark, Ken and Tony, have left an indelible mark on this very area. We get a chance to sit down today with CJ Barron, Clark, the oldest of the three boys, who's driven over 1,000 winners, joining his brother Ken in that club, and reflect on some of the great horses he's been involved with. CJ Barron, finally get the chance to sit down and have a chat. Bloody beautiful property you got here.
Oh yeah, no, we about 20 years ago we bought the property and developed it, and very happy with it.
Life in harness racing, I suppose, growing up with Dad's heavily involved and a couple of brothers, it was always on the cards, although Mum and Dad made sure that it wasn't on the cards straight away.
No, we were all had to do our trades, which was, hindsight's a great thing, but was a good idea.
All right, so you were a chippy, carpenter?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, and how long did you do that for?
Just on 4 years with Ray Harper and Invercargill, so thoroughly enjoyed it, but obviously the passion was the horses.
So your mum, Christabel, was she the main driver behind you getting a trade?
Well, collectively it was both of them. I didn't, Mum always, what's the right word, she was a disciplinarian. She used to keep us under tow, but...
I reckon that would have been a challenge over the years.
Oh, yeah, but no, I never actually asked which one was pushed it the most, but it's certainly been good.
Dad was keen to push you as a driver, and appropriately, your first winner came on one of his horses.
That's right, Free Trouble. Get the year wrong, 81 I suppose it was, and at Forbury Park. So
yep.
Yeah, he was my first and second win, and I beat a very good driver in my first drive, one of my idols, Peter Jones, so it was a big thrill.
Yeah, and you weren't favourite. I had a look up, about 7-6 in the betting, and you got there by a head, so I think the horse was False Regal of Peter Jones's. Yeah, so he was a bit of an idol driving-wise for you.
Oh, definitely. He was, what would you term, the whiz kid coming through, and he was very good too, as you well know.
Yep, well, you're not too bad with the year. I think it was October 1980, so you weren't too far away. And you actually weren't too far away from getting married either. 1983, you laid your eyes on a fine filly named Jackie Crooks. So this harness game, often people say to me, you've got to be careful what you say about so-and-so because they might be related. But yeah, you certainly followed that trend down here.
Yes, yeah, no, it's we've stuck together, so that's pretty good in this day and age, isn't it, Greg?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, you're not wrong. Daughter of Owen, a handy horseman in his own right.
Yeah, very good horseman. A lot of great ideas, great feeder, and a good trainer. And obviously went down the breeding side. He was stud master for years, so very good horseman.
Some of those people that you dealt with, and Owen was one of them as well. How did they shape Clark Barron as a trainer?
Well, I suppose a bit of what I said, all the ideas they give you and help you out. And as I say, Owen was a real big feeder and a very hard worker as far as his horses, which was the old school in those days. And Dad tried a bit of everything, so you just followed along, really.
Yep. A couple of horses you had success with early, Majestic Wings and Georgie Mac. They won sort of 4 or 5 races. Handy enough horses.
Good, yeah, very good horses. Majestic Wings was a bit of a story in itself. It was bought, I think, for $150, and it won 3 races within 10 months of that, and it was unbroken.
Right.
So it was a very good horse. I think it won 4 in the finish.
Yep. Look, you've got stories like that out of Southland all of the time. It's an amazing breeding ground and development ground for horses, and so many great horses have come out of this area.
That's right, yeah. Well, a lot of them were farmers and always had horses in their back paddocks, but or breeding a horse or two. So it's probably not quite as many as there was in the yesteryear, but there's still a lot there.
Yep. What do you remember the most about your junior driver days? I think you drove sort of 20 or 21 odd winners through that period. It wasn't easy to get drives, not like it is now. There seems to be a lot more opportunities. So getting around the workouts and trials and helping guys out, I suppose that was part of what you did to try and attract and get those guys.
No doubt. Dad and Morris Skinner drummed that into us early. Go to every workout and trial, whether you got a drive or not, and pick up the numbers, watch the horses, and slowly you got a drive or two, and that's how it started.
Yeah, you became an open driver in 86, and Voldero, I think, for Merv Ryder, and Titan Chip for George Bennett were a couple of really good horses you drove.
Yeah, no, they really fluked in. I think both won 6 races for me anyhow, and very good horses. Titan Chip took me to Auckland, so you know it was a stepping stone, put it that way.
What about your trainer's licence? Was it inevitable that you ended up going down that path? Was that always what Clark Barron wanted to do?
Yeah, hindsight, I'm not sure, but I probably was always going to, yes. But with Ken and Tony coming on, I thought, well, use Nathan for an example now. You step away and gives the next brother a chance to get the same opportunity I did. So that's probably how it worked in the finish.
All right, best dressed was first up, first win for you. Stand out in your mind, still vividly remember it?
Oh, definitely, yeah. I remember the night anyhow. The owners were very, very good at celebrating, Brendan and Barbara Fahey. So, no, it was a good thrill. It was actually, I only had the horse a week. It was leased off Peter Holmes, and he had the horse ready, so he really needed to take most of the credit, but he kick-started me, which was great.
And the Faheys have been with you ever since. I think Rakamo won in that same first season, so that name, the Raka name and the Barron name have been associated ever since.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, we've had 1 or 2 most years ever since. Yeah.
Speaking of good horses, Prince Rashad was a good horse.
He took me, between him and Lento, have taken me where I wanted to go, you know. Cup day, which was, those sort of days, and no, he's a very good horse.
What was your first drive on him? Do you remember that? It wasn't in a cup race, like a you drove him at Omacow in the Central Otago Cup. Austin Stack, he often had a decent sort of a horse. This is clearly the best of them, but what sort of confidence did he give you going into that? Yeah,
well, I was pretty fortunate. Henry drove him in Southland, and Henry must have had a double up that day, so I drove him, and I think he came from last. He went phenomenal to run second. And obviously when he went to Canterbury, Robert Cameron drove him. So I was sort of second all the way, but as you've probably looked up, I've won probably 11 races on him. He's a very, very good horse to me.
Well, he's the horse that's won the most races for you in that category. He got beaten that day by John Hay and Jacob Keegan, but you must have thought, gee, I'd love to stick with this guy. But, as you said, you had Henry Skinner and world champion driver Robert Cameron, one of only 3 Southlanders to have joined that 1,000-win club too. So you were up against it trying to get the steer.
Oh, definitely. But ironically, with Henry training no return and giving up driving, he gave that drive to Bob, and then I got Prince Rashad. So it's great how it worked out.
And that was a race on show day, that no return, and he went head to head.
Yeah.
So a classic Southland battle at the ultimate at the racetrack and race meeting, I suppose.
Yeah. Definitely. I know we only run second, but the thrill I got out of that, it was just huge, and the crowd was buzzing, you know, and we were just links clear. It was.
That was a great battle, wasn't it?
It was a very good battle. 2 very good horses.
Yeah, and he also provided you with your first drive in the Holy Grail, the Cup itself.
That's correct. Yeah. No, we had 2 drives in the Cup on him, I think.
Yep.
And one year he came back from an injury, so he was a bit behind the 8 ball, but it's always good to be in those races.
And around about that time, you also started driving Whale of a Tale. Is it another really good Southland start?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, we kicked off his career. We had a bit to do with him early on, and he took a bit to get going, but he could stay a bit.
You mentioned before a couple of good horses you drove, and Lento was obviously another one, but your association with Alec McDonald and the longevity, and even after Alec's passed, it continues on. Tell me a little bit about that and how close you guys were, because you developed a wonderful breed.
Yes, yeah, well, obviously, first and foremost, it's Alec's breed, so very fortunate to get in there, and it was once again through Henry Skinner, because Henry used to drive all Alec's horses, and then Henry did what I ended up doing, stopped travelling, and I drove the horses any time they went to Forbury or Oamaru or that for Alec, and with the proviso when they come back to Southland, Henry jumped back on. So when Henry retired officially, I got number 1 driver for Alec. So that's how it all started, and as you've alluded to before, we hit it off, and as you did with him, and it's gone from there. A lot of laughs.
Yeah, that's where the Miracle Lodge comes from.
Definitely, yeah. Alec's wee place in Mosgiel, Miracle Lodge was up on stables.
Yeah. And the big black Valiant, I remember that. He was quite a character, wasn't he?
He was a real character. Yeah, he would promote himself to have no money at all. He just, seat out of his pants, holes in his socks, anything like that. That was him. Holy boots, that's what he always had.
and we'll talk about the breed a little bit shortly, but you've carried it on through the naming of the horses, you were telling me?
Oh, yes, definitely. All the horses in some form or another are in Alex's names or his nicknames or something to that effect. And obviously the fillies are mainly Something Joy.
Yep.
Which I think he had 2 or 3 dogs, their names were Joy. Everything was Joy at that stage. But he had a sister Joy that died,
Right.
That's how it started,
Yep.
Without the jokes there. And when Alec passed on, we had lots of horses that have got lots of names, and usually he made them up, so I could go down a few if you want.
Yeah. Fourth start, first drive, Lento wins at Waimate. What did you think of her then?
Yeah, well, we had wheels. That
Yep.
was one thing, coming through the ranks, you don't get a lot of horses that got quick change-up speed, and she had that.
Tell me about her big race performances. Yes, she won a Breeders, and what an era that was, racing against the likes of Blossom Lady. That I know she was sort of coming to the end of what she had achieved, but a terrific time, wasn't it?
It was, and it was great how it worked out, because if you didn't get an advantage on Blossom Lady, some part of it, you may as well have packed up, which happened a few times on us. But if we ever had the advantage and got ahead of her and she had to do a bit of work to come round, and we were able to slip a quarter at the finish, it was the right result for us. But no, they were good horses. They weren't just them either. There was more. There was a lot of them.
She loved the 1.25 miles at Addington,
Yes,
though, didn't she?
yeah.
I think that breeder she went about 2:25, and which that time would stack up now, well and truly.
Yeah, no, she was a short distance horse, very potent short distance horse.
Yep. And the family have bred on from them. Who decides where these mares go, and how did that all work? I'm assuming when Alec was involved, he was a big part of that. But how do you decide?
Yeah, well, it was pretty hard at the start, because Alec was always the less he paid for the service fee, the better. And I was all about, if we're going to have a go, we'll have a go. So and that's how it started, because Alec said, I want to keep the breed going. Are you interested in coming in? So I said yes, but I said I can't afford to get in them. So I started by paying a few service fees to get going. So hence, I must have had some money in those days. I decided to go to the better stallions, and we ended up going pretty hard on Mach 3 for 2 or 3 years, and A, they gave us a good deal, and B, they kicked big goals for us. So that's how it started with that. And after that, we pretty much used first season sires, but went to the better ones if we could. Like, obviously it was Mach 3, Better's Delight. We had a few misses, but you know.
Yep. Joyful Bell. Tell me a little bit about her.
Yeah, a lovely horse, big, strong, strapping mare by Better's Delight, obviously, and won as a 2-year-old, and took me to Auckland and back. And she won 7 or 8 races and won the Southland Oaks. She was a good horse. We're still breeding from her, and her first 4 foals are all race winners. A couple of them pretty good horses too. Always felt a bit sorry for her in a way. Well, I never knew whether it was me or Alec, because she ran 3rd in the Jewels and Carabella and Better Cover Lover Beater. So any other year,
pretty good year, wasn't it?
And I know there was lots of others, and it was a very good year. So, but she's carried on. She's probably our best broodmare, I would think, on paper at the moment, since the 2 old mares have passed away. Yep.
So Joyful Joy won 10 or 11 races, and you got your harness jewels on the mantelpiece, if you like, from a breeding point of view. The mid-90s not only provided you with some of your greatest success, but probably your biggest success of all for you and Jackie, and Ellie was born.
Yeah, you put that on me. Yeah, that's right.
Pretty special for you guys.
Oh, it was, yeah. She was a while.
As it is for all parents, but yeah.
She was a while in the making, put it that way.
Yes, Clark, we're thinking 22 years married, and she came along, but I'm picking that as a parent that it doesn't get any, it doesn't get any better in life. We're not just talking about racing here.
No, highlight, I would say.
Yep. It also brought about a change in vocation for you, not away from harness racing, but an opportunity at Canterbury came up. Tell me about that.
Yeah, that was sort of out of the blue. We were having a pretty good run down here, obviously kicking some goals as far as the Southland Premiership and that. And got the opportunity, and I'd probably never been anywhere. Like Kian and Tony had been to Perth and Greg Harper's and Vinnie Knight's and those sort of places, and I hadn't sort of been there, hence getting married younger. And so I was probably always thinking I'd have a go at something, not knowing it was coming. And Michael rung out of the blue, and we're actually having a few beers at home one night, and made the decision overnight to go and have a go, and didn't regret it really. Yep. I'll be honest, as time's gone on, it's been one of the best things that's happened, if you put it that way.
Yeah, almost the making of.
I thought so. Yeah.
Career-wise, anyway.
Yeah.
All right, so you rock up to Canterbury there. He finds a horse from America called Hold On My Heart, and in many ways that's the greatest memory for most people of Clark Barron and Canterbury, your association with that fine horse.
Yeah, definitely. I could go all day on him too. There's a good stories on him, from coming to America to how to get him developed, and took me to Adelaide and back. He was a real good horse to us.
Yep. Before you went to Adelaide, he won a couple at Addington. I guess gave you guys the confidence, because Clive and Rona Mackay, who were a big part of the Michael House set up at that stage, they purchased him. So you go to South Australia, and you were there the whole time?
Correct,
Yep.
3 weeks or more.
You're in charge of looking after him, and I read a couple of times that you describe it as your greatest time in Australia, even though the state might not be flying these days, but you really enjoyed that experience.
Oh, definitely. And of course, they had good Heracles and all them were there that time, and Savants a lot, Pride of Petite. It was, that was probably the last good times for South Australia, wasn't it?
Yep.
But
so he won the first heat, didn't he?
He
won.
did, yeah.
Yep. And he beat Pride of Petite and Diamond Field. So it was a deep trotting series, wasn't it?
They were good horses, full stop. Yeah.
Yep. So he went bang, won that. Then he didn't. He went pretty average in the second round, and you had to qualify for the final, didn't you? I think there was only 2 heats.
There was only 2 heats, but wee story to that. We were taking him to the beach most days.
Yep.
And he got down in the float between the first heat and the second heat, and he probably nearly shouldn't have probably started, but we had to, otherwise we wouldn't have got in the final.
Yep.
So we learned a bit about stewards over there, because we've got a good old drilling over that, looking after him in the second heat. And cut a long story short, we had him right by the final, and he was giving them a good old fright until he had to get a bit of a skip.
Well, he was off the front, wasn't he?
Yes.
He was off the front, and the great horses.
Night Pistol,
Pride of Petite, Wagon Apollo, like in any other year, and you're right, he had a gallop around that last bend, but he was a brave fourth. And when you think about from where he'd come from to get to there and the issues you had, mighty horse, wasn't he?
He was, yeah. Always felt a bit sorry for Michael and the owners, because if he hadn't have skipped, he was half a chance of winning it.
It was only a short straight.
Not taking anything away from Pride of Petite and them, but he did throw his chance, perhaps.
What about the move back to Southland? I understand that it was predominantly for Ellie, and you wanted her to go to school down here, as I understand it?
Well, it was sort of when Jackie and I talked about moving to Christchurch with the job offer, we said we'll have a crack for 2 or 3 years, but when by the time Ellie's 5, we want to be settled where we want to be. So that's how it worked virtually.
Well, so that was always going to be in Southland?
It was probably not going to be anywhere else. If it wasn't Christchurch, it would be back here, yes.
Be like saying you'd drink DB or Lion against your shirt there.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. There's
no discussion. It's not up for discussion. Now, Ken at this stage had moved with John Lishner and was based in Canterbury, and I think it was about Cup Week of '99, he got himself, by virtue of the way he was driving, represented for New Zealand at the World Drivers' Champs in Sydney. So there was a show day that you had a pretty sparkling day there, or a Cup Week to be fair.
Yeah, no, that was a Cup Week to remember. Top of the pile for the week, which if I was James McDonald, that's who I thought I would have been.
Yeah. 4 winners in the day. Reel them off for me. Can you remember them off the top of your head?
Yeah, probably not in order, but Brooklyn Bridge, Natham, Stars and Stripes, and the Major definitely won the last race.
Yeah. That Brooklyn Bridge win was in race number 1. A couple of handy horses in there. Freeway Don and you'll star, a future New Zealand Cup winner. So you beat a couple of smarties.
Yeah. Actually, a good wee story there. When I left Southland, one of the horses I had to give up, I had freed away Don.
Yeah.
So he went to Brownies
Murray
after
Brown?
that.
Yeah, Murray Brown. Yeah.
For Peter and Carol Chamberlain.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But that day, wow, that must have felt like all the cards were falling your way.
Yeah, no, it did. I got a bit of jibbing for it because it was pretty wet that day, and everyone said, "Oh, well, that suited the Southlanders." So it did.
It was actually. It was a really wet show day.
Yeah,
it was.
Yeah.
You mentioned before big races that you like to win, and the Supremacy being one. Handy Boy, that was the early 90s, and then I'm Full of Excuses for Ollie and Irene Haynes, and of course they had the Mighty Justin excuse. It was a good breed, that good tough breed.
Oh, definitely, yeah, definitely. Back to the first one was Handy Boy was Alan Devery, obviously, and Henry Skinner, and Henry was in Auckland at the time with Fun Legacy and Honkin Vision, I think.
Yep.
And then Davey Hill was actually a neighbour of Mum and Dad's, so,
Right.
you know, and of course Alan Devery was always giving me a driver too, so it was a bit of a chest poking out moment or whatever to drive for those people and then win it was good.
Win it, yeah. It's a great race, isn't it, the Supremacy?
Yes.
It always has been.
And it always throws up a good horse.
Yeah.
You know, some years you run third or fourth and you say, oh, a bit disappointing, but you look back over the years, there's been some good ones. I'm Full of Excuses, yeah. I would have thought he was only perhaps third or fourth best in it that year, but we got the run to suit and beat Nathan by a lip.
Yep. And you've mentioned that a couple of times. You brought that up with Nate the odd time?
Not really. I didn't the first time, but I sent him a text after the win congratulating him from I'm Full of Excuses, and he enjoyed that. But he was always going to catch up, and he's won two since. So.
What about Ellie's first win? And before we get to that, how she got into the business, were you always keen that she'd have a part to play in harness racing?
Not sure, but she was always keen on the horses. So first and foremost, she rode Fritzy since she was a wee kid, right through to show jumping and cross country, all that type of thing. And then started showing a wee bit of interest in the driving of the horses. So I bought her a cart pony that her and the McNaught boys all drove around and had a lot of fun with. So. And then obviously she went to uni and she just got keener and keener from then. So obviously we backed her whichever way she wanted to go. Hoped it was going to be a physiotherapist, but
yep. She qualified though.
She's a qualified physiotherapist, So she's followed along from what Mum and Dad taught us, which is good. As it turned out, we had a good horse called Some Joy, so it was the right time.
Yeah, it was, and it was also the right time for Ellie because that was her first win. How special?
Oh, big thrill that day, yeah. It's it was a big run. It was a big bit of pressure on her actually, first up to be on a horse like that to win. So going forward, it was good.
Some Joy gets there. Ellie gets her first win.
Barrier 14, speaking about going forward, you've never been one to go back at the start, and she was wide for the first half of the race, and they went 155 and just kept pressing on. What was it like sending your daughter out there to drive on a horse that most expected to win in her first ever race drive? What was going through your mind?
Yeah, I was pretty lucky. I trusted her, so it was not as hard as people think. So she said a few times, I said, what's your instructions? And I said, well, you know me, I don't give any, but I said, you're not going to win if you go back. But I said, if you go forward, you'll be three wide most of the trip anyhow. Just give her a wee breather somewhere, which she did, which sounds silly, three wide between the 1,000 or the 900 and the 600. So no, it was good.
Yeah. What sort of watcher are you, and what was Jackie like?
I didn't go near Jackie, no. We sit apart. I'm pretty quiet. I don't get vocal or anything, but I'd probably just as soon be on my own watching them. Yeah.
Yep. At this stage of her career, as much as she's driven 70-odd winners and she's clearly respected amongst the horse people, her greatest claim to fame is almost the Ricky May Omakaur scenario. And what did you think when you understood what actually unfolded and the part that she played in keeping Rick alive?
Yeah. Well, Jackie and I were both at home watching it in the stables. We didn't go that year, and apart from feeling very sick about poor Rick watching it, and of course we didn't hear anything for years and years. We didn't even know Ellie was the one that had helped Ricky.
Yep.
or save Ricky more to the point, and
Well, that's it.
Yeah.
She actually did.
so yeah, no, we were very proud.
Your record driving wise, I'm not going to say it's unsurpassed, but it's certainly to be respected. Leading Southland driver 95, 96, 2001, 2, 3, 4. It rolled on there for a while, didn't it? Southland Personality of the Year, drove 69 winners in 2001. I think that's your record. When you get the chance to sit down and have a cold one and think about it, and you're not these type of people, I know, it was a hell of a driving record.
Yeah, I suppose putting it like that, yes. Firstly, I don't think about it. I don't look too far ahead. But I remember thinking I was probably never going to drive 1,000 winners. Never even thought of it, and made up my mind I wasn't going to worry about it, so I didn't. And I was talking to John Hay one day, and he virtually kicked my bum, and he said, "You've got to have a go at that," because whoever did the same to him a few years earlier. So it's thanks to John I actually kept going. I probably wasn't going to at that stage. So, looking back, it's one of those highlights, isn't it?
Yeah, well, 12th of April 2015, 23rd into that club, eh? And when you look through the list of names, the 22 that were prior to you, one of which is your brother, Ken, and of course fellow Southlander RM Cameron. She's a pretty exclusive club.
Yeah, all fellas you look up to, including Ken. But the other thing is the ones that haven't got there. I mentioned Peter Jones before. There's probably Derek as well. Like the drivers, Horseman, that are I consider all a lot better than me, and they're not on those record books for that.
So Flight Deck, Ascot Park, probably appropriately that you did it there, and the track that you've driven over 300 winners on. So yeah, pretty special moment.
It was, yeah, no, it was. A few of the locals was local publican Gus Dermody was in the horse, and play a lot of golf and that with them, so it was very fitting. You've
had a couple of red letter days. We talked about show day before, but you've actually driven more winners, 6 to be exact, on a couple of occasions. Once at Invercargill and once at Roxburgh, I think it was. Mm-hmm. How does that work? Does it obviously you need the stock to be able to do it, but when you're getting to 4, 5, and 6th win, everything must just be going so slowly and working to your advantage, I suppose. Tell me what it was like.
Yeah, well, I suppose it's surreal. It happens. You don't know why. Like Roxburgh, of all places, I'd never had a lot of luck at. I'd won at the odd race there, but it was a hard track. And Tony trained, he had 4 horses in, they all won that day, so that helped. And I think I drove one for Ivan Court, and by the end of the day, I was just getting runs through them, It was one of those days, and I think Tycoon Bill of Murray Brown's won the last, and I couldn't do anything wrong.
No.
Put it that way.
Yep.
One of those days.
I think you've had 5 in another day, so you've had a few big days on the track. What about the future for Clark Barron? Let's start with the sport. What's left to achieve for you, and are you still happy, you and Jackie down there, just pottering away doing your thing?
Yeah, definitely. Won't be doing anything else if I can, Obviously, health-wise, you've got to be at your best. But no, still enjoy doing the horses, and to what level? Obviously, half what I was before.
Yep. And how many do you guys work? What sort of numbers are you?
A dozen.
Yep.
Yep. I'd like to stick around that, or give or take a few either way. And but when Ellie was here, we were 23 to 25 all the time.
Yes.
So
yep.
So we've technically cut everything in half, and it's a nice way to be, and ticking away quietly. It's good.
Yep. Gives you a little bit more time for some leisure activity. I know golf's part of what you enjoy doing, so a little bit more of that potentially.
Yeah. Potentially, I'm not much good at it, but we have a lot of fun. There's a good group of us. Yep. Alan Beck, Brent Barclay, and Alan Sloan, Gus Dermody, myself are the regulars now, and the odd other one, Rabbit. Do you know Rabbit? He's here now and again. But no, we have a lot of fun. It's good, and it breaks the week up for us.
Life's been good.
Life's been good. Yeah, no, I wouldn't change too many things. Sorry. No, life's been good. If we didn't have 2 new hips, it would probably be worse.